Well, hello, everybody. Good Monday or God Monday. It is the top of the week. I hope everybody had a good weekend, and we are about to get started into another week. Hi, Teresa. How are you? Thank you for joining. While we wait for everybody to join, I just wanted to say to my brothers and sisters in America, I believe this weekend is Thanksgiving weekend, if I'm not correct. So, to all who celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you have a wonderful time and eat some good food and, have some good time spent with your family. Um, Thanksgiving is a time, whether you celebrate it or not, at least you get time off and it's a good time to connect with family. Especially if you don't live close by. I know some people may be traveling to go and see their family members and like I said, the food. And I know about the food. I may be living in Canada, but I have been to the United States many times. I go back and forth, and the food is everything. And so, to those of you that are celebrating Thanksgiving, I hope you have a good time. So, the topic of today, we're going to be talking about over policing with Black people here in Canada. And more specifically, we're going to be talking about Toronto in particular. I came across a video of a Black police officer who is basically just advising that people who, Black people in Toronto should just comply when you're being pulled over by Toronto police. And it got me to thinking, because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, when it comes to Black people in general, we're over policed for sure. I know it happens in the United States a lot as well. It definitely happens here. So in my mind, I thought, well, it's one of those things where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right? Facts, not feelings. Exactly. You're saying comply or unalive. Um, and it sounds like a declaration of war. Yeah, I I have mixed feelings about this. But I'm going to go ahead and play what this Black officer had to say, and then we'll talk about it further.
Is we have a different reality. It sucks that I would have to give this advice, but I would have to give this advice for safety reasons. Do everything you can to just be compliant. If you feel you're being mistreated, then deal with it afterwards, make a complaint. Everything these days is on body camera. So if the police officer has a bad interaction with you and you think they're being unfair, that'll all be on camera. And when people review the camera, they'll see what's up.
But it can be hard though when people are feeling disrespected in that moment.
Yeah, and you gotta find it within yourself to just be like, all right, who was it? Jay-Z said it, but I'm sure somebody else said it before him. A wise man said, don't argue with fools, because from a distance, people can't tell who was who.
So basically, he's saying just comply, and you're better off complying. Again, the issue I have with that is when you do comply, sometimes you don't have to be doing anything but minding your Black business, just standing there. And I will give you examples of that. And they approach. And whether you comply or not, it still doesn't go your way. This officer also mentioned that they have body cams and, you can complain afterwards and you have footage. Sometimes they don't, though. Sometimes it's not on. And sometimes it is us or somebody around who may be seeing something that doesn't look right that turns on their phone and records it. And that's the proof we have. So that's not always factoring in cases like this. Exactly. What happens no afterwards. Exactly. But one of the things I also wanted to play is you feel like they trained him very well. Well, listen, maybe he sees many, many things that we don't see. And that's why he's saying, this is your best bet based on stuff. I don't know. But I tell you, for me, when I saw that, it was a little bit triggering for me because we see many, many cases of Black men, in particularly Black men who comply, or if they know their rights and they cite their rights, it doesn't go well for them. You're, like I said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But the chief of police, his name is Myron Dimkew, was talking about the fact that based on race-based data, they acknowledge that Black people in general are over-policed way more than any other race of people. And so the Toronto Police Service was forced to conduct race-based data to provide these results. And so it wasn't something that they just arbitrarily decided to do. Okay, they were forced to do it. And that's one of the things that's severely lacking in this country is race-based data in health, in law enforcement, etc. Anyway, I digress. So that is what led, the chief of police to speak on it. So I'm going to play what he said, and then we'll talk about it further.
Morning, we released findings detailing the analysis of race-based data collected in use of force and strip search interactions. The results have confirmed what for many decades racialized communities, particularly the Black and Indigenous communities, have been telling us, that they are disproportionately over-policed. This data demonstrates the unfortunate realities of those experiences. As an organization, we have not done enough to ensure that every person in our city receives fair and unbiased policing. And for this, as Chief of Police, and on behalf of the service, I am sorry, and I apologize unreservedly.
So they acknowledge it. They acknowledge it. And, one of the things that he said is what they've been telling us. Yes, what we've been telling you. Why did it have to go to you having to conduct race-based data in order for you to listen to what we've been telling you? When you have apparently you have body cams, right? So why did you have to conduct that in order for it to happen? Nevertheless, it happened. They now have acknowledged it, and there's been a whole list of things that they have to do to amend this. Has it changed anything? I personally am still seeing over-policing going on, but I can show you better than I can tell you. So, facts, no feelings. You're saying my advice: remain silent and invoke your Fifth Amendment rights if you're in the US. Well, again, you could do that too. You could do that too. You can remain silent and say, I'm not answering any questions. We have the right to do that. It's just the reality for Black people when we do that is not the same of other races of people. So, the question begs, what does one really do, right? JJ Strong, how you doing? You said, I'm sorry, this is not enough. They need to hold training, accountability, and ongoing evaluation. Agree. And that's one of the things that's in the long list of things that Toronto Police Service has to do. But I'm gonna show some examples, and I kind of pulled different ones. Like I pulled an example of a police officer or two police officers that approached a man who was just minding his business, okay, waiting for some friends outside to celebrate. His name is Orlando Bowen, and he was playing for the Canadian Football League, and he had just got an extended contract for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and he was waiting to celebrate with his friends. So he was standing outside his vehicle, and two plainclothes police officers approached him, and we're going to play and take a look at what happened to him.
To celebrate with my teammates, I'm waiting for them to meet up at a carpool location. I get to the location first. I see two guys walking towards me. One guy says, hey man, got any drugs? I'm like, no. Mind if we go through your pockets? They don't find anything. Then one guy says, okay, we're gonna have to put the cuffs on you. For what? Guy punched me in my side, just said, just do what you told, you effing ass. The way these guys are behaving, they're not cops, man. Beatings continue, especially when they put the cuffs on me, and one guy was on my back and holding me down, and the other guy was just trying to get me flush in my face, right? But I couldn't move because my hands were pinned behind my back, and he puts his hand on his gun and he says to his partner, I'm gonna shoot him in the head, I swear to God. And in that moment, I realized that if I establish the upper hand in this moment, I'll never see my family again. The morning after the assault, though, when I was at the hospital, when the nurse asked me what happened, I wasn't gonna go into any detail with her because I was just like, I can't believe this. So I was just like, I got jumped, and the nurse says, oh, by who, the police? So I'm like, wait a minute, why did you say? I was offended by how she responded. It was too casual. I said, why did you say that? Why did you say it like that? And she said, oh, well, because I see it all the time. But usually, the person is like a newcomer or like a teenager, or they don't speak English well. When we went to seek legal representation and we had lawyers saying, we don't want you to take this the wrong way, but in our professional judgment, we're going to recommend that you plead guilty to a lesser charge because you're black. And I was like, that doesn't even make any sense to me. I'm innocent. I was disheartened by that, but it wasn't just one law firm that had that type of sentiment. So then that speaks to there being a bigger systemic challenge in terms of perception and in terms of, are you really innocent until proven guilty? In the US, when we're having conversations, folks are like, yeah, it exists, I've seen it. When I'm speaking with a number of Canadian audiences and I share what we've been through, they're like, what? In Canada? And then it takes a minute, because they're just like, how is this even possible? I didn't even think that anything like this was possible in Canada. There is racism here in Canada. It's embedded in systems, institutions, education, housing, economics. It's been present for a long time. It's just now a lot of people are seeing it in a different light because of some of the things that have transpired over the last 18 months. Sometimes it's hard knowing that I survived. It's recognizing that I have to do something because Mr. Floyd can't, Breonna Taylor can't, Regis can't, Jermaine Carby can't. The list is so long that they can't, so I must.
So many things to say about this one. Okay, so Orlando Bowen, as I said, was a CFL player. That incident that took place that night with these two police officers is a clear example of a black man minding his own business who complied. They came up to him and they were like, "You have any drugs?" As you heard. And he said, "No, I don't have any drugs." And they said, "Do you mind if we check your pockets?" He didn't fight them. He didn't say, "Hey, I know my rights," nothing. He complied. They checked his pockets. They didn't find anything. Next thing you know, they're cuffing him and they beat the stuffings out of him. They beat the stuffings out of him so badly that it ended his football career. He was no longer able to play football. He had a severe concussion among so many other injuries. That night, his career ended. Okay. Now, to just go further into this story, they did end up planting cocaine on him, to be exact. And then they lied and said that they found this on him and that he resisted arrest and that he assaulted them and, lies, lies, lies. One of the police officers ended up getting arrested himself for drug trafficking. And the other one, he's still working as a police officer. So at the end of the day, was anything really done to these officers? No, not really. But Orlando Bowen has gone on to become a motivational speaker, and he definitely speaks mostly to youths. So he's doing great. He's crushing it in that game. But this is a clear example of a black man who complied, of a black man who's minding his business. And he was clearly targeted by these police officers. They chose him on that good night, and he was the one that they were going to come after. Fortunately, the charges were dropped, but his life could have ended that day. So I say all this to say, here's an example in Toronto of racial profiling and over-policing, and black men in particular being targets. Okay, we're going to keep traveling, so hang with me. I got more to show you. Just want to read some of what my brothers and sisters are saying here. So facts, no feelings. You said you would never argue or speak to cops. Just make sure you know where the government workers are where you, or who work where you live. I see what you're saying. Yes, wow is indeed truly does not make sense. I agree. It doesn't really make sense. So you're saying this is why you're glad for digitalized society. Yeah, because People have phones. People have phones. They can see it. If you don't have a phone or you're not in the position, like Orlando wasn't in the position, he's down, he's getting beaten on, so he can't take any footage and there's nobody around, right? So you say the West is over. Get out if you can. Yeah, I mean, whew, I'm going home. I'm a Ghanaian to the core. I'm going home. Anywho, so we're going to keep traveling. I'm going to give another example of a Black man who maybe wasn't necessarily complying as it relates to what was happening to him on a TTC, which is the Toronto Transit Commission bus. So what had happened was he had paid his fare and the bus driver was telling him to leave. So he was resisting, saying, "No, I'm not leaving the bus. I paid." And then this bus driver called the police, which is not the normal process. There's a process. And let's just watch and see what happened here.
A bus driver put out a radio call for help. He said a passenger was told to get off the bus and wouldn't. That man is Chase Richards. He says he didn't get off because he'd paid his fare. Minutes later, 2 Toronto police detectives showed up. They were not in uniform. Richards testified Detective Christopher Hutchins, seen in the plaid shirt, said to the bus driver, "Is this the expletive that is causing the problem?" 20 seconds later, this happened. Richards says he was grabbed by the throat and held that way for about 30 seconds.
But it's certainly not something police trained to do, to grab somebody like that.
Richards was then pushed to the ground and handcuffed. After that, the detective sat down and put his feet on Richards' back.
If in fact he was resisting, the officer would have been down on the ground with him.
Hutchings is being tried for assault. He's been on the force for 24 years. Right now, he's suspended with pay. Video from the patrol car was also reviewed today in court.
I got choked. Okay. He physically choked me.
Richards was arrested for causing a disturbance and mischief. The charges were later withdrawn.
So as I said, normally what happens is if a bus driver feels like they're in any kind of distress or whatever, they call their security, and there's a security team that's tasked to come and deal with it. So the fact that he called the police and then these plainclothes guys show up and, apparently they weren't even on duty and they show up and they did all of that to this brother was 100% wrong. And of course they're going to lie, and they lied and said that he resisted arrest and all of these other things you can see in the video. And we had to blur it out for reasons that, guidelines on this channel. But as he said, he was choked, he was thrown to the ground, his foot on his back, and you could see that police officer panting. So, they were really going in on this brother. And ultimately the charges got dropped. And as you heard, that police officer was charged. But here is another example of a Black man who actually was doing nothing wrong. He paid his fare, but the bus driver told him to get off the bus. Now, granted, he paid his fare, but he came in through the back door, but he paid his fare and he showed evidence of it. But this bus driver didn't care. Okay. So here come these police officers. There is another example. If it was one of the folks, that's not how they would have been treated. Okay. So I just wanted to show another example, but a different example of, again, not necessarily complying, but didn't do anything wrong. And still, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Go to law school and have multiple cameras if you can. Yeah, I always say that. I say you should have a camera on your dashboard. Like everywhere you can have a camera. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of taking your phone out in time. And sometimes even when you do take your phone out, it's either batted out of your hand or you're told turn it off or else and stuff like that. So dash cams are supreme, especially for being pulled over. You can go home and, Africa, yes, I know I can, and I'm going. So you're saying, yeah, they might be some of those people in uniform, for sure. Exactly, Isaac. That's my whole point. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Not that I'm suggesting fight the police and, don't put up with it. I'm just saying, when it comes to our reality, it's just not the same, right? We are damned if we do, damned if we don't. Um, you're saying when on a TTC bus, always take down the bus number. Yep, operator number, time and direction traveling, and description. Absolutely. Take all the information. And also, if you can get the police officers, I mean, plain clothes, it's a bit obviously difficult to get their names, but if you can get images of them somehow, uh, you know, images, description, really good description, do what you got to do to cover your hoo-ha, if you know what I mean, because it's super important for us. We need that evidence because oftentimes it's their word against ours. And with Orlando, they just lied, straight up lied. Same with this brother, straight up lied on him. So we have to be prepared with our proof, right? Shut up and comply is exactly what led to us being enslaved for so long. Great point, Sister Whitney. Great point. Oh, yes. Yes, Sheila, that is true. You know, those glasses, that's right. The glasses that are actually cameras, you would never know they're cameras. We definitely need to invest in that. That is really a great idea. Sharon, you're saying never speak to the cops, record them in public, and if using public transit, record yourself paying your fare. Yes, yep. And now I don't know if they have them in the United States, but here they have what are called Presto cards. So you just tap, so you have your evidence of payment. So putting coins in still an option, but they have these cards now as well, and that records. And it also shows, how much money you have left. So these are things that they can easily access and get answers for. Yes, the Meta glasses, man. I agree. I'm going to show an example of somebody that was non-compliant. And this one I pulled because it took place with a black cop and a cop that's one of the folks. And they came together to harass a black man who was minding his black business. But this black man went the other direction. So let's watch.
The birth.
What's your last name?
Leave me alone, bro. Like, holy shoot. Like, don't you have something to do, like, your job?
Yeah, we're doing our job.
Go do your job. Your job. So hold on. Your job's to ask my name?
Yeah, just to make sure people aren't trespassing.
I'm not trusting. I'm waiting for Uber. I got a drink.
Hours.
I got a drink at 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting right here.
And you're loitering here.
Loitering? I'm waiting for my Uber.
Okay, where's your Uber?
Coming.
You've been waiting.
Bro, I don't have to say no more to you. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I have to say no more to you.
I've never seen you.
It doesn't matter if you never seen me here, man. Get out of here.
All right, no, we'll wait with you.
Okay, good.
All right.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Goodbye. I win, you lose. You're not getting my name. It sucks, huh? Yeah. Yeah, you wish just to search me and ask my name, but it doesn't work like that, buddy. You wish you could just search me, huh? What would you find if you searched me? Yeah, you guys would be happy. But I know you can't search me. Asking random people names. You're pathetic, bro. Get out of here. Move. I'm sick of you. I'm sick of you guys using your power like your badge power. You stupid clowns, rookies, piece of shit.
Okay, so that brother wasn't having it. So just to give some more context, he had gone to 7-Eleven and he was waiting for an Uber. Here comes these two police officers. One, like I said, is a black police officer. One's one of the folks. And this man, the one that's one of the folks, was questioning him and said, I've not seen you here. And he's like, so you have to see him there? I'm not seeing you. You're loitering, just finding everything to talk about. And then when he said, I'll wait with your Uber for you. So he was standing there waiting. The brother got up from there and then went over to the sidewalk and said, now I'm not trespassing. Now I'm not loitering. Now what do you have? So this was a brother who kind of knew his rights and exercised them. Now, I just wondered when I saw this, and I did cover it earlier. I just wondered with the black officer there, is that maybe why he didn't be more forceful with this brother? I'm just wondering, because I'm just wondering if it was two of the folks that approached him, how that exchange would have went if that brother was talking back to them that way. You know what I mean? I just wonder. And then also that black cop remaining silent really bothered me. But some people feel like, look, sometimes they just have to be quiet and just be quiet. And then I also wondered what would have happened if that, the cop that was one of the folks actually started to rough up that brother. Would that black cop had stepped in? So many questions. But again, here's another example, but on the other side where this brother was like, I'm not putting up with nothing. I'm not answering. I'm not telling you my name. I'm not telling you anything. I didn't do anything wrong. Called them, POSs and you name it. And they ended up just walking away. That again is an example of not always being our reality. Okay. It's just not. So you're saying, yeah, this brother is recording, so they're more vigilant, but you can tell they want to. Yes, they wanted to, especially that one there. But that's why I was saying, I wonder if because he was with a black cop, he maybe didn't do it, Yeah. Anyway, they pulled us. Oh, so you're saying that you got pulled over and so you're telling us a story. Okay, you got pulled over and they wanted your ID and oh, okay. And the black cop was the antagonist. That's interesting. Wow. Um yeah, I feel like his silence was compliance. That's how I feel about it with that black cop. I feel like it was compliance. But this is another example of when you go the other way, sometimes it works in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm going to play another example of a black man. His name is Guled Omar, and I actually interviewed him and I've spoken to him many times because he's also from Toronto, but had traveled to Montreal to celebrate a milestone career. And he was just waiting outside his car. And here came the police officers. He did exercise his rights by saying, I don't have to do anything you're asking me to do. And that didn't go over well for him in the racist province of Quebec because the police officers there are no joke when it comes to black men. Okay. So they weren't having it. So let's just watch how that turned out for him.
Spit bag over my head and try to suffocate me, like covering my mouth and my nose. They threw me down on the ground. They're yelling, stop resisting. They're putting pressure onto me. Any human's reaction is going to be kicking and squirming, gasping for air. And that's what they try to say, you're resisting. I'm not resisting. I'm saying I can't breathe.
In videos sent to City News, Laval police can be seen pressing their knees on the victim's neck and back and repeatedly punching him on the ground.
Resisting! Everybody stay back!
I can't come to myself to watch the video. On numerous occasions, I've just been crying.
It made me feel sick, disgusted, frustrated. Anybody that was at the scene that was a law enforcement officer will be held accountable and implicated in this complaint.
So what had happened was the police pulled up in droves, like, it's almost like it was a raid. And they came out and they told him, get in the car, because he was standing outside his car. They told him, get in the car. And he's like, why would I be getting in the car? What have I done? And anytime a police officer is telling you to get in the car when you're standing outside the car, that's a huge red flag because usually they're telling you to get out of the car. So if you're telling me to get in the car, then I'm wondering, are you going to plant something in there to try and lie on me and, make me go in the car and then search? And by the way, it's not the police car that they're telling them to get him to get into. They're telling him to get into his car. So it's like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? So he was like, I'm not getting in there. I know my rights. And that's when they threw him to the ground. And then, as you heard him say, they put the spit mask in and putting their knee on his neck. Sound familiar? And they beat him for about 30 minutes. He was very seriously injured. Okay. So here's another example of what happens with black men here in Canada. And going back to the race-based data, showing that this is the level in which black men are over-policed. Black people, but black men more so. And I'm going to go over some of the stats that prove it. But I just wanted to read some more of what y'all are saying so I can talk with you guys. Most cops don't know the law. We need to educate ourselves. Yeah, what I would say is we definitely need to educate ourselves, and that's what I'm seeing more and more Black men do is educate themselves, so that when they're getting approached, not only do they educate themselves, they also have dash cams. They have video cameras. They turn on their cell phones and they're videotaping the conversation. And if they don't feel safe turning on their actual video camera, they use their audio and they have that going, and the police officer doesn't even know it's happening, right? But just to go over some of the statistics as it relates to over policing in Toronto in particular. So Black people in Toronto only make up 8.8% of the population, okay? But guess how much of the percentage is for policing? You ready? 32%. That is like what? More than triple the amount of population of Black people. 32% of all charges in Toronto, Black people. Okay. Not only that, they also say that as far as stop searches, carding, and street checks, Black people are 1.9% more likely to be to have at least one stop. Okay. Two stops, 2.8 times more likely. Three stops, 7.3 times more likely. And then more, 9.0 times more likely. Okay. Oh my gosh. Black people are 6.1 times more likely to be stopped, searched, all of those things than the folks. So that's to tell you the level in which, and that's just some of the data that they found from conducting this race-based data. Okay. Between 2013 and 2017, Black people are dramatically overrepresented in the use of force incidents. Okay. Let's look at the specific. Black people made up 28.8% of special investigation unit use of force investigations, 36% of police shootings, 61.5% of use of force cases that resulted in civilian unalivement, and 70% of fatal police shootings. That's Black people in Toronto. That's the race-based data. And that's just between 2013 and 2017. We didn't even get the full data for now. So if it's like that then, can you imagine now? I know a lot of Black men here that can tell you at least one time that they were pulled over and roughed up. I know many that choose not to talk about it, but it's a thing. So we're going back to the question, which is, if you're a Black man and you get pulled over or you're minding your business and they approach, do you just comply? Is that the best answer? Is it to just comply, answer their questions, give them everything they need, and hope for the best? Is that what we should do? I'm assuming that's the best case scenario. I just, unfortunately, like I said, it's just not our reality of being treated in a humane nature. And let me just be clear about something. I'm not saying all police officers are like this, okay? There are some great police officers that are, all for our community and they're doing great things. I do think one of the solutions would be to get more Black police officers. And I'm talking about the Black police officers that rock with us. I'm talking about the kinfolk, not the skin folk. I'm talking about the ones that aren't sellouts. We need more Black men, Black women in law enforcement. And not only as police officers, we need them in high ranking positions as well. We need those people up there to be able to lobby and be there for us. Because I'm telling you, out here on these Toronto streets, it's no joke for Black people, okay? It's no joke. So you feel like the West is over? Yeah. I mean, I do think that the great replacement theory is a thing that they feel, the folks feel, and there's some level of trepidation and insecurity and all of those things for sure, and fear. So you're saying the police act like they don't some kind of paraphernalia. Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, there's good and bad in all, right? Okay, so Carl, you're saying it happened to you twice for no real reason. Exactly. And so Carl, tell us, what did you do in that situation? Did you comply? And if you complied, were you okay, you know? Yes, that is true, JJ. Even other ethnic groups, they do. We get profiled. We get profiled across the map. We sure do. But as it relates to policing, it's just one of those things that we have to really think about, the best way to basically make it home in one piece, right? So I do think one of the things that needs to happen, because it is baked in, it is systemic, is to make sure we have more Black representation in every ranking. That's the first thing. And then, of course, us as Black people out there in these streets, particularly Black men, we just need to make sure we are in the position where we can surveil how we're being treated. So, yeah, I love the glasses. Love the glasses. I love the glasses idea, because then you don't have to worry about if you have your phone out, or if you have a dash cam and they get wind of it. Some of them may like dismantle it somehow or throw your phone away and all that stuff. So I love those glasses. I love that idea. People have to realize that they are yeah, yes, some of them could be members. Some of them could be members. I do know, like I said, there's good and bad in all, and there are some great cops. I've had great encounters with cops that are the folks. So I can't say they're all like that. They're not. They really truly are not. There are some really good police officers that are even in, like, to my Toronto people who know Jane and Finch and know Regent Park and know those parts of Toronto that are heavily populated by Black people. There are some police officers that are the folks that are tasked in that community that are rocking with us. So I'm not going to say they're all bad, because they're not. But the ones that are, okay? They really are. And these examples that I showed you are those subset of police officers. You're saying we shouldn't have to dress a certain way to please the folks. Yeah, and see, and that's the thing. Sometimes it doesn't even matter what we have on. Again, this brother, Orlando Bowen, wasn't dressed a certain type of way to please them or not please them. He was dressed nice. He's a good brother. He's talented. He's a great athlete. He was just waiting for his friends. So we get stereotyped if we're wearing hoodies and things like that. If we show up at the hospital or whatever, it's like, oh, you just want drugs. If we're just walking in a store with a hoodie on and some, jeans, all of a sudden you look sus and you're being followed around, where one of the folks can be wearing the same exact thing and not get that reception, So it's like, you could be in a suit. There's been Black men who are wearing a full, beautiful suit and they're carrying their briefcase and still get racially profiled. Then it turns out that they're a lawyer or a judge or something like that. So like I said, damned if we do, damned if we don't. But it's one of those things where we just have to make sure we protect ourselves then, because at the end of the day, those particular police officers will lie on you. They'll lie. They'll plant some things. They will tell lies. So good attorney, be prepared with surveillance. We need more people in the force that look like us, that aren't sellouts, as I said. These, I think, are some of the solutions, if you will. So you said you complied and got a false ticket that got thrown out in the court. Basically, they wasted your time. Yeah, false. But I'm glad it got thrown out, though, brother, because... And I'm glad that that's all that happened for you. I'm so glad. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Yosef. You said that you experienced police brutality and one of your friends were unalived by an officer. I hope that officer, was held accountable. So you don't think that we should apply the judge head? So comply. You don't think we should comply? I feel like one of the things we definitely need to do is definitely know our rights. We need to know our rights for sure. And we need to be prepared to have footage of what happens with every encounter. Like, I know I've been in the car with my hubby and we get pulled over, and he immediately says to me, start recording when I'm in the passenger seat. And I do, because you just never know how it goes, right? So, and in that case, hubby had done something wrong. So it was his fault. But nevertheless, it's still good to record, because it can be something we did wrong, but then it ends up becoming a bigger thing with lies and all of that stuff. So it's still good to always turn it, like I said, even if you can't turn on your camera and you don't have a dash cam, just turn on the audio, the speaker on your phone, and let the audio recording. We just always need proof. We as Black people, we need proof. That's the bottom line. Anyway, family, I didn't want to take up too much of your time on this Good Monday. I just wanted to, just show you that here in Canada too, the over-policing is a thing, and brothers do get brutalized, and they have been unalived, and things have happened to them here too. So, this police officer's advice is to comply. And so, okay, I'll let the brothers decide what they think is best for themselves. All I'm saying is make sure you have proof. Make sure you're armed with either the glasses or a camera, dash cam, video cam, something. We just have to be prepared. We have to be prepared. So you're saying we've been complying for decades. Yeah. That's why I say, in addition to complying, make sure that you have all of the evidence. Because we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't, by some police officers, not all. So you're saying, yeah, we police our own communities. Maybe we can get our youth to police our communities. Yeah, somebody had suggested that we have like community, police and things like Black Panther. We don't have that here in Canada. A good Black Panther unit would be beautiful, especially now, because we have all these folks running around talking about preparing for combat and race wars and all this other stuff. So it would be great if we had a Black Panther type thing as well, like the community outreach type groups, You're welcome. It is great to highlight these realities in exactly the true North, and they call it the Great White North. So I just wanted my brothers and sisters in the United States to see that we go through it here too, okay? Oh, you want people to know where the police live? Well, I don't know how easy it is to find that out, but and I'm not really sure if that will bode well for us. It's not like we can pull up to their house. That would be a dangerous situation. So I don't know about all of that. But anyway, brothers and sisters, thank you for spending 42 minutes with me and talking about this. I appreciate it. And again, to my American brothers and sisters, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. If you celebrated, I hope you have a great time with your family and food. I'm already jealous. I'm thinking about that sweet potato pie and pumpkin pie and collard greens and turkey and what else? Cornbread. And I know all of this because like I said, I go to the United States a lot, and these are some of my favorite things: cornbread and what else? All those wonderful candy yams and peach cobbler. Come on, and banana pudding. Or no, is it banana pudding? Yeah, banana pudding. I love all of those things. Pecan pie. Yes, pecan pie. Oh, I'm so jealous. I feel like I'm going to call some of my friends in the United States and go over for at least one day and go enjoy some food. Just food alone will get me there, right? So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time. You celebrate, and please be safe out there. Please be safe, and if you're traveling the highways, byways, plane, trains, and automobiles, have a safe trip. Here in Canada, we get the benefit of Black Friday. In Canada, they love to have Black Friday sales, even though Black Friday isn't a thing for us, but it's to keep us from going across the border and spending our money in the United States. So I will definitely be taking advantage of the Black Friday sales and the Cyber Monday sales. So that's a good thing that we have here in Canada. So yes, Southern style cooking. Oh, so you said you won't be celebrating Turkey Day. Yeah, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving either, but just to those who do, I just want to wish you all a wonderful time. And so you're saving your funds. Oh, nice. Well, have a safe trip and enjoy your weekend because I guess you get time off as well. So have a wonderful, wonderful time, my brothers and sisters. I shall see you tomorrow at 4 p.m., same time, same channel. Until then, please, please be safe, everyone, and I shall see you again.